Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018. And it is a pretty quiet Tuesday morning along the New River. Sprinkler system is on, all that good stuff. So if you hear anything, all the water sprinkles and all that. A couple of folks right now are walking by, say hello, and everything's going okay. Yep. All right, my man. See you later, right, brother? See you tomorrow for sure. Yeah, a couple of guys check and see at the courthouse all the time. Good folks. But man, I'm just doing this. Decided to do another show today. We get a couple of things got inspired. I was looking at some of the links that people share with me, and one of these areas has caught my eye. And the United Nations is at it again as usual. There's even a claim that it's like some people in the United States are involved. When I posted on Facebook, on one of the certain group sites, and all the fake news, and everyone's like wigging out all that. I go, listen, how do you know it's fake news? That's the question. Well, you think because President Trump is not going to let that happen? Yeah, it's not one person got to focus on. There's a lot of other criminal elements in Congress are falling for it, and it may be happening way before he became president. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. However, so I'm just gonna do it up here, and this is from the newamerican.com. It came out Monday, of course. It's entitled "U.S. Promises Full Implementation of UN Gun Control Agreement," and this is written by John Wolverton II, or JD. And man, it's getting a little bit slow here. Okay, there you go. Bingo. Thank you. Stop. Alright. So as it reads here, June 29th marked the end of the third review conference, or RevCon, of the United Nations Program of Action, POA, on small arms and light weapons. Delegates at the conference, including representatives of the United States, worked on producing updates to the Global Gun Control Agreement. According to the text of the latest draft of the agreement, the POA will serve as an international instrument to enable states to identify and trace in a timely and reliable manner. It's the small arms and light weapons that are the targets of the scheme. In practice, this means that the governments of member nations, including the United States, should create a massive, all-inclusive database of all parties that manufacture, own, sell, trade, or transfer arms and ammunition. If recent history is a reliable indicator of how such data would be used after the catalog is complete, Congress could hypothetically pass a law or a president would issue an executive order compelling voluntary surrender of whatever privately owned firearms, ammo, parts, and components, including reloading equipment. The UN deems illicit if after a statutorily set window, citizens don't turn in these now illicit items to their local law enforcement, then officers will be sent to remind violators of their responsibility under the law to disarm. The delegates, including those from the United States present at the POA planning meeting, have agreed to begin developing domestic legal frameworks that will provide for the proper management of small arms and light weapons stockpiles to assist member states in the implementation of disarmament disarmament and stockpiling of the prohibited small weapons and light arms in the hands of anyone other than approved government entities. The PLA places the enforcement of the provisions into operational activities of the United Nations peacekeeping missions. In other words, should Congress and the President fail to begin seizing and stockpiling privately owned firearms in a timely manner, then the UN will deploy blue-helmeted peacekeeping troops to assist in the operation. Regarding the implementation of the POA at the national level, the final draft of the report of the latest RevCon lists 6 points to which all member states agreed to advance with their respective domestic governments. Here are those 6 commitments taken directly from the document, and there's a link for that so you can read it yourselves, my friends. To establish or strengthen national laws regulations, and administrative procedures in support of the full and effective implementation of the program of action. 2. To strengthen coordinated national approaches for the implementation of the program of action, including, as appropriate, the establishment or designation of national coordination agencies or bodies involving relevant government agencies, including those responsible for law enforcement, border control, and export and import licensing. 3. To promote full participation and representation of women in mechanisms relating to the implementation of the program of action, and to encourage strong cooperation with civil society, paramilitaries, industry, and the private sector. 4. To establish or designate a national point of contact to act as a liaison between states on matters relating to the implementation of the program of action, and to share and update this information regularly, and to provide a point of contact with the necessary means to carry out its role. 5. To encourage the development and implementation of national action plans or other national policies in support of the implementation of the program of action by taking better use of existing information to improve the measurement of progress, and to coordinate the development and implementation of such plans or policies as appropriate, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, including those from civil society and industry, with those relevant to Target 16.4 of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and to the relevant United Nations Resolution on Women, Disarmament, Non-Proliferation, and Arms Control. Lisa Haven talked about that on her shows as well, so it's very interesting, and she has the documents to back it up too. 6. To significantly reduce the illicit flows of small arms and light weapons as appropriate through illicit weapons recovery and voluntary surrender programs. Anyone with even the most cursory constitutional education will be able to identify several significant problems present in this list of commitments, a list to which the United States has agreed. First, in order to legally comply with the goal of full and effective implementation of the program of action, the Second Amendment to the Constitution would have to be repealed. That critical provision of the Bill of Rights explicitly forbids the federal government from infringing whatsoever on the right of the people to keep and bear arms. The program of action, on the other hand, requires that member states do all they can, not only infringe on the right to keep and bear arms, certain arms the United States doesn't approve of, but on the right to buy, sell, and trade them, and the ammunition that makes them effectual too. Second, agreement would require the repeal of the 10th Amendment, as it would place state governments as well as state and local enforcement subject to the federal and international agencies tasked with licensing weapons and controlling international borders. Placing the state governments and their resources at the mercy of the federal and international governing bodies would turn the Constitution upside down and would violate the anti-commandeering principle, which holds that the federal government cannot coerce states into participating in federal programs. That's Federalist Papers 46, to be exact, was written by James Madison. Third, the appointment of a liaison between the federal government and the United Nations would be an extra constitutional act that would result in the endowment of an unelected person with the necessary means to carry out the program of action in the United States. One wonders how liberally the globalocrats and the homegrown gun grabbers would define the phrase necessary means in order to accomplish their shared goal of seizing weapons and ammunition from civilians. Could this liaison call upon a General Assembly or the Security Council to send UN peacekeepers in the territory of one of the sovereign states of the American Union charged with assisting law enforcement and with mandated registration and eventual seizure of all light weapons? While this seems far-fetched, it's really outside the realm of possibility for some future date. Next, the program of action calls for domestic implementation of system capable of using existing information to improve the measurement of progress or the full implementation to the program of action, including disarmament and the control of all sale, purchase, and trade of disapproved firearms. How do you imagine would the progress of implementation be measured? by means of compulsory national firearm registration. Well, we got something like that. It's called I call it 4473 form, since it's from that was enacted within the 1968 Gun Control Act. By means of tracking the manufacture and sale of ammunition from factory to end user. Yes. If you doubt it, consider this paragraph from the POA agreement. To take advantage of the opportunities that new technologies, when available, can offer for enhanced small arms and light weapon stockpile management and security, including through improvement marking and record keeping, and for the destruction of surplus small arms and light weapons that have been designated for destruction. Finally, there are many, many more patently unconstitutional provisions on the UN's Program of Action, and the United States, in order to protect the Second Amendment, must refuse to negotiate with those who wish the Americans disarmed and vulnerable to rule by the global plutocrats. Right now, that seems unlikely, though, as the working paper submitted by the United States declares that the implementation of the POA must remain priority number one. The United States continues to support full implementation of the POA at the global goal and national levels. Perhaps Americans who oppose the eventual disarmament by the UN and the participation of our government into that betrayal should contact President Trump and encourage him to get the United States out of the UN. And I have to agree completely. And there's a link for that below, which you can check out. It's from the John Birch Society. Like them or not, but the information is really well done. That's why I'm always one of those individuals that would always go and support their cause. But the truth of the matter is, it's called H.R. 193 to get the U.S. out of the UN. Trump should unsign the UN Arms Trade Treaty, which, if I'm correct, President Barack Obama did. Get the U.S. out of the UN all that, not in 2020. So a lot of stuff you can do, and you can always add that to it. But the fact is this, my friends, it's going to be a long battle, because even the young people are seeing the bigger picture, not just those hacks, not the clowns from March for Our Lives. I call them March for Our Lives because they are a bunch of liars and don't have a damn clue. The children of the Khmer Rouge revisited. But the whole thing is this: the United Nations did have a terrible reputation in how they treat people when they're quote-unquote peacekeeper troops. Rwanda, Dominican Republic, areas of Africa, Haiti. We can go on. You're going to leave all your security in the hands of them or to the government, then you're screwed, punked, duped, and all that. So definitely, the link is below. I encourage people to go out there and get the U.S. out of the United Nations. It's H.R. 193. That's the name of it. If I'm correct. Yeah, H.R. 193. That's the name of it, but there's plenty of links on there too. So definitely check it out and spread the word like fire. It's time to get out. It's time for the United States to get out of the UN, period, and evict these bastards completely. And we just demolished that damn building, as far as I'm concerned. One big outhouse. All right, so it tells you all about it. So can't miss it. There's a link for that. HR 193. So please, folks, do that, make it happen, and spread the love. All right. So next thing I'm going to be talking about came from antiwar.com. Came out yesterday by Jason Ditch. Senator Graham visits Syria, attacks Trump plan to pull troops out. In Manbij. Graham says terrible if the U.S. didn't have troops in Syria. Hawkish Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of North Carolina, made a surprise visit to Syria on Monday to stopping off the city of Manbij, which is held by U.S. and Turkish forces. Graham delivered a speech clearly designated to attack the idea of U.S. pull out of Syria. There's no official plan for the U.S. to withdraw from Syria. Indeed, Pentagon officials have been presenting the U.S. military presence in Syria as open-ended. That's not to say that Graham comments had no reason. Rather, President Trump has talked openly on wanting to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria, sometimes saying he expects it to happen soon, while ultimately being talked out of doing so by cabinet members. Graham is getting out in front of the future possible consideration of a drawdown. In his comments, Graham insisted that the U.S. needed to stay here to help, and that it would be terrible if the U.S. didn't have any troops in Syria in the future. The U.S. presence in Syria could be complicated, however, with Turkey aiming to take Turkish border territory therein. Manjibi is the start of the agreeing to back Turkey over the Kurds, effectively making a deal to expel Kurdish YPG from Manbij in favor of Turks. All other troops in Syria are embedded in Kurdish-held territory, and it's now clear how long will it be before Turkey starts challenging for all those areas. So you know what? It's everything up in the air, and Lindsey Graham may hurt his pocketbook. You know what? You throw all that sleaze bag on the front line. Let's see how that cockroach will live. Okay? And all his little cronies in there as well. The United States should have never been in Syria, period. Alright? So you got a scumbag like him, Lindsey Graham, is nothing more than a tyrannical douchebag. And sometimes I hate using this language, but sometimes these individuals, they reap what they sow. They earn that. Those names. And the truth, and this is why, when it comes to imperialism, I condemn it with an action, with a passion. And even George Washington warned us about foreign entanglement. But this dumbass, neocon prick, excuse my language, don't give a damn. He wants to make money. He wants his Simon buddies be financially prosper, while other good people suffer by the blood of their hands. So you know what? Throw him in the front line. See how tough this douchebag is. Any of you Graham supporters out there, you can tell him I said so. He's nothing more than a treasonous douchebag. He's less of a man, less patriotic than Benedict Arnold. Okay? End of story. Alright, there'll be a couple commentaries here. This one came from Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity. And it says here, who's afraid of Trump-Putin summit? The President Trump's National Security Advisor John Bolton was in Moscow last week organizing what promises to be a historic summit meeting between his boss and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Bolton, who has for years demanded that the U.S. inflict pain on Russia and on Putin specifically, was tasked by Trump to change his tune. He was forced to shed some of his neoconservative skin and get involved in peacemaking. Trump surely deserves some credit for that, which is true. And as could be expected given the current political climate in the U.S., the neoconservatives have joined up with the anti-Trump forces on the left and the U.S. client states overseas to vigorously oppose any involved movement toward peace with Russia. The mainstream media is, as also to be expected, amplifying every objection to any step away from confrontation with Russia. Bolton had hardly left Moscow when the media began its attacks. U.S. allies are nervous over the planned summit, reported Reuters. They did not quote any U.S. ally claiming to be nervous, but they did speculate that both the U.K. and Ukraine would not be happy for the U.S. and Russia to improve relations. But why is that? The current Ukrainian government is only in power because the Obama administration launched a coup against its democratically elected president to put the U.S. puppets in charge. They're right to be nervous, and the British government is also right to be worried. They swore that Russia was behind the poisoning of the Skripals without providing any evidence to back up their claims. Hundreds of Russian diplomats were expelled from U.S. countries on that word alone, and over the past couple months, each of their claims has fallen short. At the extreme of the reaction to Bolton's Russia trip was the U.S.-funded think tank, the Atlantic Council, which is stuck in the 1950s time war. Its resident Russia expert Anders Aslan tweeted that longtime Russia hawk Bolton has been captured by the Kremlin and must now be considered a Russian agent for having helped set up a meeting between Trump and Putin. Do they really prefer nuclear war? The experts are usually wrong when it comes to peacemaking. They rely on having official enemies for their livelihood. In 1985, national security expert Zbigniew Brzezinski attacked the idea of a summit between President Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. It was demeaning and tactically unwise, he said, as reported at the time by the Washington Times. Such a meeting would elevate Gorbachev and make him first among equals, he said. Thankfully, Reagan did engage Gorbachev in several summits, and the rest is history. Brzezinski was wrong, and peacemakers were right. President Trump should understand that any move toward better relations with Russia has been already pre-approved by the American people. His position on Russia was well known. He campaigned very clearly on the idea that the U.S. should end the hostility toward Russia that characterized the Obama administration and find a way to work together. Voters knew his position, and they chose him over Hillary Clinton, who was also very clear on Russia. More confrontation, more aggression. You can hear some of her debates and the rhetoric. It's so obvious. President Trump will be wise to ignore the neocon talking heads and the think tank experts paid by defense contractors. He should ignore the never-Trumpsters who have yet to make a coherent policy argument opposing the president. The extent of their opposition to Trump seems to be he means and rude. He's mean and rude. Let's hope that the Trump-Putin meeting begins a move toward real reconciliation and away from the threat of nuclear war. And he's absolutely correct. I have to agree with that 100%. And you know me, I'm critical of Donald Trump in a lot of areas too. I make fun of him and stuff on Facebook. I'm gonna have to check out the one area as well on the Gaza situation he may be involved with. But this area is good because let's make it organic, keep it real. And don't get me wrong, we're not created by Putin either in a lot of areas. KGB agent, it's like a CIA agent. Okay, they're all the same. The fact is, people want peace. They don't want any friction or any more wars, okay? Because who benefits the wars? Banksters, period. And now let's stop the propaganda matrix and make this a reality for having better relations with Russia. Because I can say this: there's some beautiful Russian people out there, and they see as many of us as awesome also. So let's give them the thumbs up. President Trump, I have my battles. I may bust your chops, I may make fun of you, but do the right thing. I'm not saying this out of apple polishing either. I'm still a vigilant man. Alright, one more thing here. So I felt like to do this. I know it's going to be a short segment, which is fine. Short episode, which is fine. And it's here from the 10th Amendment Center. It came out yesterday as well. July 2nd, today in history. Passage of the Lee Resolution. With ties with Great Britain to be totally dissolved. And who wrote this? David Brenner. And it's interesting, real short and sweet. Today in history, on July 2nd, 716, the Second Continental Congress has passed the Richard Henry Lee Resolution, which calls for ties between Great Britain and the American states to be totally dissolved. The vote was unanimous amongst the colonies, all of which one vote regardless of size. New York abstaining, initially reluctant to support this measure. South Carolina pledged to join with the majority provided that there would be no dissent from a vote of independence. New York has not yet received instructions from its legislators to vote in favor. British Admiral Richard Howe amazed a huge fleet of ships around Long Island. Still, the New York state government gave its delegates permission to support this cause a week later. However, several states had already declared independence prior to this point. By July 2nd, some still clung in hope for peaceful reconciliation with Great Britain. Delegates such as John Dickinson, one of the most famous Americans of the era, refused to sign the document. Others felt that they authorized a vote of independence. their state should be treated as Massachusetts had. Following the agitation in Boston, Britain dissolved the autonomy of the Massachusetts government, closed Boston ports, imposed a quartering law, and besieged the colony. Upon a decision to secede from the British Crown, a somber mood swept through Independence Hall as delegates realized their action would be considered treasonous. Despite the prospect of death by hanging, a decision has been made. Historian Mercy Otis Warren wrote this account of the event. Their transactions might have been legally styled treasonable, but loyalty has lost its influence, and power its terrors. Firm and disinterested, intrepid and united, they stood arrayed to submit the chances of war and to sacrifice their devoted lives to preserve, inviolate, and to transmit to posterity and inherited rights of men conferred all by the God of nature, and the privileges of Englishmen claimed by Americans from the sacred sanctions of compact. In response to the resolution, John Adams believed that July 2nd would be celebrated as the most extraordinary holiday in America, and wrote to his wife Abigail, the second day of July 1776 will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I am apt to believe they will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the greatest anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorative as a day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. While Adams did not realize the date of the Declaration of Independence, except that 2 days later would be more recognizable and celebrated occasion, he fully grasped the significance of the day and its eternal importance. Ironically, Adams would later attempt to diminish the significance of the movement, while Jefferson received much adulation for his philosophical influence and became the lead opponent of the Adams administration. There's a cool document in there, talks about it, and on 1776, and it's absolutely correct because everything has steps and patterns to make things for what it is. And this is why I'm always a person like myself supports natural born rights. I honor this country as a republic, not a corporation. And furthermore, foreign influence by foreign nations is very dangerous as well, according to John J. Phillips Papers 2 through 5 and George Washington's farewell address as president, which occurred in 1796. You can look all this up, and you'd be surprised how deep does this go. And they had the foresight to examine these areas a lot broader. So this is why I always tell folks: remember, never support tunnel vision. Enhance your mind and see all angles at the best of your ability. And you'd be surprised in a period of time. You'd be surprised what we can think of. So. And that is it, to be very frank. I thank everyone for listening, plus feel free to download and share throughout the social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you may send something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondence with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, Patreon.com/LookLook3 If you want to be a donor, a patron, it'd be awesome. Hit me at Gab, which is at gab.ai, yours.org, oneway.org, and buddylist.co. So more like decentralized social media sites, okay? In addition, you can get me at LookLook3 at gmail.com, or to the encrypted one, especially with the Proton Mail account, LookLook03 at protonmail.com. All right, my friends. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. All you folks out there, like I said before, have a happy, safe Independence Day and celebrate it with homage, dignity, without any forms, supporting any forms of tyranny. Alright? Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. So take care of yourselves, keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.